According to a new study by the Ponemon Institute, which conducts independent research on privacy and data protection and information security policy, U.S. companies will spend more than $130 billion on data breaches this year. Obviously, a huge loss of revenue. We're joined now via Skype from Houston by Gregg, who is the Chief Operating Officer of Superior Solutions. How bad is this for American businesses, Michael?
Hi, well, thanks, Jonathan. Actually, this is another conversation that's all about budgets. And in this case, what we see is if you've watched the news any this year, that companies in many cases have failed to place the appropriate amount of budget there on security controls and security mechanisms.
So what are the causes of the data breaches? I believe we have a full screen showing some of them. 40% company negligence. What does that mean exactly?
Yeah, what's interesting when you look at this results is that many times we tend to think that most security breaches are external. You know, it's the bad guys breaking in. But what we see by the results of this study is that a lot of these are from insiders, insider negligence, even in some cases failure to put basic controls on information, things like encryption, and not just encrypting sensitive data.
So you've got 40% computer and company negligence, 36% due to computer errors, and 24% only by malicious attacks. That's a complete reverse of what I would have thought it would be. That's extraordinary to me.
Exactly, and I agree with you. But there again, I think what it shows is that in many cases, companies are not putting sufficient controls on personal information. Things like encrypting hard drives, putting proper policies in place, and training employees to know how to handle sensitive information like credit cards or social security numbers.
So let's put up that other full screen that we have, the ways companies can minimize the risk of attack. You're talking about things like password protection, securing software, installing the antivirus spyware, protecting mobile devices, and training. Is it really true, Michael, that a large number of companies in the United States in this era don't do those things as a matter of course? That seems extraordinary too.
It's still many times companies don't see the value of spending the money on these types of protections until something bad has actually occurred, which is the scary part of this. But better training, better security controls, and putting policies in place once again where people know how to handle these types of information. Big piece of it.
In your line of work, which I assume is fixing these kind of things and training companies to do this, what's the sort of biggest single loss you have seen for a company, without naming that company, of course, from this kind of negligence?
We've seen in some cases, because usually when we deal with companies is after these types of losses have occurred, and we've seen these in the tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars in cases. And it's simply many times because proper security controls, proper security monitoring wasn't put in place to find out about these breaches or to prevent these problems before they actually occurred.
What companies that don't have this kind of what would seem to me common sense security policies in place, what is their justification for it when they come to you and say, "Help! It's too late"?
I think one of the big things is that many times that companies have failed to see that it's a paradigm shift, that we're not living in the same world we were living in 10, 15, 20 years ago. Everything's connected. Everything's online. We have huge databases today with massive amounts of personal information, credit card information, other types of personal data. And sometimes companies just don't see the importance of securing that data until something bad happens.
Let me bring in, I've got Scott Blakeman here, one of our guests here with me in the studio, Michael. Scott, what do you make of it? I'm staggered by some of the figures Michael's coming up with, that companies aren't taking care of this better in this day and age.
Yeah, I know. I think you would think they would, and I think maybe some companies are slow to move forward and realize how important all this is, and because it has been and can be devastating to them.
And Michael, we see it on a bigger level, I guess, or a more frightening level, with the attacks on our defense systems and the infrastructure of things like the power companies that could really damage us far more than just financially if there's ever a successful attack in bringing some of those systems down.
Exactly. I mean, in those cases, you're looking at potentially terrorists, foreign governments, foreign military being able to potentially disrupt electrical, water, power distribution, phone systems, which could have a hugely devastating effect.
So how urgent is it for everybody to get this done? Should every company have this yesterday?
Many companies should. I mean, some organizations like banks and financial have done a pretty good job at securing sensitive information. But others that have, similar types of information should approach this in the same way those entities should and start building those controls in place.
So it's pretty simple from a company's standpoint, I guess. It's like if you're a mom and pop grocery store, you put a lock on the front door. It's not really any different to that, is it?
Exactly. It's the same type thing. And we've seen in some of the big security breaches this year with Sony and others, even those simple things as far as encrypting sensitive data just wasn't done.
All right, Michael Gregg, Chief Operating Officer of Superior Solutions, thanks for joining us via Skype from Houston today. Thanks, Michael.